Hi, and welcome to the Stress Less Summit. I'm your host, Eleni, and I've organized this summit because it upsets me when I see girls and young women experiencing so much stress in their lives when there is a better way. And so I've brought together experts from all over the world who care about this issue to share their specialist advice and insights with you. And today I'm talking with Jessi Kneeland, who's here to talk to you about stress and body image. Jessi is a body image coach who's on a mission to help women break free from body image issues and learn to love their bodies. And you can find her on jessikneeland.com. Jessi, thank you for taking the time to do this interview with me.
Thank you. I'm excited.
So before we get into the meat of this, would you like to tell us a bit about your story and how you got into doing what it is that you do?
Yeah, so I had been a personal trainer in New York City. I was training clients, mostly women, and I became known in my gym as like the model whisperer because I got all the really young women who had never had to work out before until their agencies told them that they basically needed to. And so I was handling like beginners, people who had never stepped foot in a gym before. And I loved working with these young women. But the thing that I saw over and over and over again was how much they were trying to change things about their bodies in order to feel a certain way about their bodies, and changing their bodies didn't give them what they really wanted. So also body image doesn't discriminate. And I was super surprised to learn that like the women who are like, Victoria's Secret models, like people who are setting the bar for female beauty in our culture, and they still walked into the gym and were like, oh, I want to get rid of this, I don't like that. They just still had this attachment to it as though they were so imperfect. And so I started thinking about that, and I realized that I felt more passionately about helping these women learn to break free from that feeling of being flawed and broken than I did about actual fitness. So I went to life coaching school. I found my niche and my branding, and so now I'm a body image coach, and I work only with women, not because body image doesn't affect men, but because the things that cause body image issues for each gender are pretty unique. And, I just sort of, I know women, I get where it comes from. I've overcome my own body image issues, and I feel like it's such a problem, and it's such a feminist issue, and it's such a marginalization issue that I am passionate about working with women on learning to feel whole, learning to feel good enough as they are, learning to see their own value outside of how they look. And all of that requires healing body image.
That reminds me of something I read when I was, I think I was looking at your website, or at one point where you shared a story about how you used to go to the gym and you wanted to work on your body image kind of externally, and that's when you'd realized after an injury that for your personal journey, you needed to go inwards. Do you want to talk a bit about that?
Yeah, it's interesting to me because we often think of body image issues like being, like eating disorders, or someone who's like totally crazy, someone who just like, is body dysmorphic, looks in the mirror and sees a fat person when she's not. But that's not really true. I think that body image issues can be a lot more subtle and a lot more insidious. Like it's got its fingertips everywhere. And I personally didn't think I had body image issues for a really long time because I was like, I don't know, I eat normal and I don't like cry all the time. I'm probably fine. But the truth is that I was constantly checking myself. I was holding my belly in as tight as I could. I was like, I would always flex and like do a pose for photos, and I would think about how I looked all the time. And it wasn't until I realized like I was a personal trainer and a fitness model. I looked great. Everyone liked the way I looked. So I kind of thought, oh, I don't have body image issues. It's totally fine. And it wasn't until I started going, well, what if I wanted to stop lifting for other reasons? And it started to become like, I just became very aware that I had not had issues at that point because I looked the way society says it's okay to look. So really, I think stepping back from fitness taught me a lot about the fact that we really just tie our worth to what society says is okay, and that being truly free of body image issues is about tying your worth to not at all related to that your worth is just inherent, that you all have worth, You don't need to earn your worth. That's a huge part of it. And yeah, so that was a super interesting thing, because for me, I was like, I know this stuff, I got it covered. And then, there's just deeper and deeper layers, and it's very subtle.
I love that you talk about the layers and how you can go deeper and deeper in this issue, because it's true. We've got that where it's like, oh, I don't have body issues. That's for them. That's for the people who are as you said, anorexic. There's some obvious external sign that perhaps that they're going through some confidence challenges and body issues, when actually it can be subtle, and it's something that makes us all think. I'm sure the audience are also thinking about their life, and I'm thinking about my life. It makes us all wonder, actually, are there ways where we're accepting what it is we're feeling based on validation, or is it true internal confidence and a sense of self-esteem and self-worth?
It's interesting, because a lot of times people will tell me, they'll say like, well, I don't wear makeup because I'm insecure. I just like the way I look with makeup. And I say, great, wear makeup. I don't care what you wear. But the question I ask people is, how do you feel if you got into the world with none? Because if you just think you look great with makeup and you wear it and it's fine, and you go out in the world with none and you're like panicky, and anxious because you just feel so naked or so vulnerable or ugly even, well, then there's something going on there. It's not just fun, it's protection, and it's offering you a validation. So there's nothing wrong with makeup, the same way there's nothing wrong with wearing Spanx. But if you're wearing Spanx because you're ashamed of your body, the way that it looks naturally, then you're still in it. You're still like at the mercy of validation, and you're still hiding something about yourself. And those are body image issues.
So it sounds like basically people also need to be aware, not just of their emotional states, not only but the reason, but connect emotion and reason. So it's like, why are you feeling the way you're feeling? When do you feel what you feel? And so to really dig deep into the sources, both rational and emotional, behind how their choices and what it is that we do and how we behave.
Absolutely. And I always say that body image issues aren't about your body. If they were, then the Victoria's Secret models would have none. It would be a non-issue. So it's always about something deeper. It's about the fact that you're tying your worth or your values in some way to how you look. And a lot of times that's because society like blasts us with those messages from the times we're kids, that like, you get all this praise and approval and acceptance and compliments when you're quiet and when you look pretty. And we learn that, and it grows up with us, and it's internalized, and it's really hard to break free from.
And when you said that, it reminded me, and I'd invite the audience to think about their memories as well. Invited me of moments where people said, "Oh, what a good girl!" She's very quiet, and you never hear someone saying, "What a good girl! She's loud and expresses herself fully and with vibrancy." It's like,
oh my God, exactly. And it's so interesting too, because when we look at like subtle forms of gender inequality, people will say like, well, women, like you guys are all going to college now. You're like, we've got senators and stuff. You're fine. Like, it's not an issue anymore. But it's not just about those big numbers. It's about stuff like this. Like, most boys are just kind of like accepted for being rowdy and, difficult and a handful. But for a girl, it's like, why are you being like this? Please, just be good, be good. And we're just it's like assumed that that's the role we'll play. So then we have to cut off whole parts of ourselves, or at least not develop whole parts of ourselves that are aggressive, rowdy, loud, confident, whatever.
So it sounds like it's also suppressing negative, like the what's considered negative emotions, or anger, frustration, sadness as well, from what you're saying.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So something that I'm curious to know about is, and to hear your opinion on is, as a classroom teacher and in education, people will often hear that there'll be a counselor in school. And they're a counselor who often works with talk therapy, really. So if someone's going through a stressful time, in university as well, if a girl or young woman's going through a stressful time, maybe to do with exam stress or other types of stress in their life, often the advice that schools or universities will give is, and we have this counseling service, and often they use talk therapy. So what is it that a body image coach does if they're going through stress that might be related to do with self-esteem, body issues, or that kind of stress? How is it different to what people know as talk therapy?
That's a great question. So I love talk therapy. I think it's super valuable. It has a really important role. It's some of the best we've got of like psychology science is talk therapy. Unfortunately, I think it misses the boat in a lot of ways, particularly when somebody doesn't feel like there's anything like technically wrong with them. There's no major trauma, there's nothing diagnosable. They just feel off, or they feel like, I'm fine, but like I'm not living optimally, So I often think of therapy as serving the purpose of taking someone who doesn't feel functional and moving them to functional. And body image coaching is typically, I wouldn't work with somebody who had an eating disorder, for example, because I know that there's a need for therapy there. I work with people who are functional, they're fine, but they just know something is missing, something isn't as good as it could be, that there's a way they want to feel that they can't figure out how to feel. And typically it's because the anxiety about body image stuff is just in the way on a daily basis. So that's where we start, and we move from functional to like thriving, moving from just like getting by to being able to live the life of your dreams without having the constant thoughts, because that's what it is. Body image issue, it's just constantly checking in with your body in a variety of ways. And when you get those out of your head, you can do so much more with your time and energy, including things that feel purposeful and meaningful, things that are just interesting and fun, things that give you pleasure and joy. So I'd say that's the big difference. Yeah.
I love that. So it's like, it sounds like it's basically going from good to great. It's something that adds value to your life, improves your quality of life. And as opposed to someone who then needs counseling or to see it, so, if they've got mental health issues, then they need to see someone to go from, well, things aren't great to good, to being well.
Exactly. And another thing that's interesting, like body image coaching is new, we just like, I have such a small handful of peers, because for the most part, people are just figuring their way through this. We're recognizing, I don't know if you know the statistics on like, little girls dieting and women who want to change something about their bodies. It's like, most girls have dieted by the time they're 10. And then most women, it's like 99% want to change something about their body or have at least one I hate my body thought every day. So it's just staggering. At this point, it's not even like an epidemic. It's just, it's everybody, it's everything. It's permeated it all. So I think we're finding our way towards moving into body positivity, but no one quite knows what to do yet. We just know there's a problem. So for me, the way that I do body image coaching is totally different than the way that some of my friends do it. And that's great. There's a need for a lot of voices out there. Specifically things like the fat acceptance movement is really valuable, but I can't be the spokesperson for that because I've never been overweight. So I work within my niche. We've got a lot of people trying to move this forward. But one way that I do it specifically is through getting people back in touch with their body sensations, like what it feels like from the inside to be a person in a body, as opposed to have all of your thoughts kind of be from a third person, like where you're watching yourself have a body. So that's kind of the basis of the work that I do.
Something that I was thinking while you were saying that is, it sounds to me like you basically do, how we've got this concept of emotional intelligence. For me, what you're talking about is body intelligence. It's I don't know if that concept exists already, but how you've got academic skill and intelligence someone can work on through high school and university, mostly to do with essays or reports or whatever it is. So that's one type of skill you can work on. Then you've got emotional intelligence, and here it's body intelligence, where you're going at a deeper level beyond that.
Yeah. This is just a crazy fact that I love, is that when you go through trauma, so trauma is like, you got into some kind of survival response, something scared you, and you didn't discharge the energy. So you've got all like the adrenaline and all the stuff that was designed to keep you safe. It just doesn't get discharged. That's what causes trauma. So when that happens, a lot of times, one of the sort of side effects can be that you lose proprioceptive feedback. Like you literally lose the ability to know where your body is in space. So people who feel really uncoordinated, a lot of times they've just experienced some kind of trauma, and they've lost the connection between their brains and their bodies that tells them, like, you know, left side is doing this, right side is doing this, you know, trying to pull something off. And so it can be amazing to watch someone start healing from something like that, from both the inside and the outside. Talk therapy has its role, undoubtedly. And a lot of coaching is, you know, like helping ask questions, help people dig deeper, but then also giving practices where they learn how to resense their bodies, you know, both from like a skin sensation place and a where am I in space place, and like, what does it feel to be hungry? What does it feel to be sad? Like, what are those literal sensations in my body? Where are they? How do I know I'm hungry? How do I know I'm sad? So that's a lot of the teaching that I do. Is I like that body intelligence. It's getting them back able to sense things when it's gone haywire, or they just have been repressing it their whole lives, or just simply sometimes no one ever taught them.
And that question, how do I know I'm hungry? You know, it sounds so simple, but in a time when we've got all of these options for eating, and where you've got pressures, for example, to either eat because, well, this is the size burger that they serve. And so but then it's like, well, actually, am I continuing to eat because I'm hungry, or because I feel I should finish it and feeling guilty? And the other way around as well. Is it I'm not eating because I'm hungry, or is it because I'm scared that I might be judged or what have you? So that's a question that requires a lot of self-reflection and self-awareness, is what it sounds like as well.
Absolutely. And it's people say, like, listening to your body, you know, it's like in the intuitive eating movement, people always say you have to listen to your body when you're hungry, when you're full. And I think that even that, which is like so brilliant and right on point, it misses a whole huge amount of people who go, I have no idea what that means. Like, I literally don't know what you're talking about. Yeah. So I would listen to my body if I knew what you were talking about, but instead I'm just going to assume that what you say doesn't work, because it doesn't mean anything to them, because due to trauma or due to some other thing, they cannot hear their body speaking to them. So a lot of that is gradual, bringing them back to the sensations in a million different ways, and helping them learn from there, like, that when you can listen to the compass of your body, you don't have to rely on portion sizes and diets, you know, just the same way that when you can listen to the compass of your body, you don't have to rely on other people's opinions of you. You just don't. You have your own, like, all the information you need is in your body. It tells you everything. But when you can't hear that, other people's opinions become really important. So then you get stressed all the time. You know, do they like this? Do they not like this? It's just a constant, like, battle. That you can get rid of, basically, by tuning back inside.
And it sounds like it's another tool, once you develop this skill of listening to your body and what it's telling you, of also making decisions in your life, going from little things, from how do I know what I want, you know, how much to eat, what to eat, what's good for me, and the eating point, but to just life decisions, where you've got so many people who are feeling, I don't know what to do in terms of the next step, applying to university, careers, jobs. Do you have a job where it's, you know, a paid job? Do you go freelance? There's so many choices and life choices that we need to be making on a daily basis, that it sounds like it's a skill that then's transferable to help you make decisions in your life in general, is another way of, how do I know what the right way is?
Yeah, exactly. And I often teach the internal yes and no, which, you know, your body's talking to you in so many different ways. It's a lot more complex than this, but sometimes it's really helpful to just boil it down into a yes and a no. So, like, your internal yes would be how you feel when you imagine, like, hanging out with your best friend in your favorite place, doing something you love. Like, the feeling you get in your body is like, oh yeah, you know, it makes you want to, like, lean in, go do that thing. And then if I were like, okay, well, now you're hanging out with your worst enemy in a place that's terrifying and doing something that you hate doing, how do you feel now? That's what no feels like. And learning how to decipher the difference between yes and no, it's really like accessing a compass or a map. Like, it tells you everything. And I always say that people who feel anxiety all the time, that or like stressed out all the time, that there's a lot of stress that happens when you're living a life of no and don't realize it. Like, something in you knows it's not right, but you haven't been able to access exactly why or which little pieces need to change. So as you get in touch with the difference between yes and no by accessing your body's signals, like, you make choices that honor you. You know, you make choices that really like suit you. And all of a sudden the anxiety and the stress of living a no every day, waking up to a job that feels like a no, in a relationship that feels like a no, those things just, they make their way out. And so you can really live in a much more relaxed and confident and comfortable state.
Mm. And so what's the process that people go through? Is there maybe a process where, for example, they need to start with emotional education, emotional intelligence training before they go into the body, or is it a mixed approach? What would working with you look like if someone was to start working with you?
I meet people where they are. So it depends a little bit on what's going on. You know, some people come in with like super emotionally intelligent and don't know where their left hand is, you know, and then other people come in with a mix and a need to work on both. I'd say that's probably more common, but to me, they're indistinguishable because your emotions are physical too. Like, how do you know you're sad? The answer is there's a feeling somewhere in your body that tells you you're sad. So if you can't access your emotions, if you've been like repressing your emotions your entire life, you're also going to struggle to hear other signals in your body. And if you've been suppressing your hunger your whole life because you're dieting or something, then you're also probably going to struggle to feel your emotions because you're turning the volume up or down on all of it. You know, you can't really just pick and choose. So if you're there and you need to be working on both, then we'll be working on both. They're usually going back and forth kind of between the two. There's no like fix one, then work on the other.
And how does someone know that they're ready for this kind of work? Is it, for example, they might start to be aware that they're not really spatially aware, so they're bumping in a lot into tables and don't realize why they're getting these bruises, so that's a sign that they're not really spatially aware, or that they're just feeling a lot of stress in their life and they're not sure why it is that they're stressing out so much about their body image, or they're thinking a lot about their image when they see themselves in the mirror. What are some signs that people, you know, that are ready to start this journey with you?
That's a great question. I would say that for the most part, people who come to me are coming on some like gut, you know, like gut feeling, like they just think maybe there's a better way to be, or they read what I write, you know, on Instagram or something, and they're like, I think there's something to this. So it kind of resonates somewhere in each person before they come to me usually. But yeah, the biggest markers for who's coming are people who are constantly looking in the mirror and going, ugh, and then knowing logically that like they're fine. You know, like it's the people who are recognizing that there's something to this whole body positivity movement and going, oh yeah, I should be able to love my body even if I have like an extra couple pounds on me, but I can't. So if you didn't know that you wanted to love your body, if you were still just trying to fix your body, you wouldn't give a shit about anything involving body image. You know, you'd be just like, oh, I'm going to go to the gym and fix this. So I'd say for people who are still in that mentality, they're not usually ready. It's for people who are able to see that there's something going on here. Like, is it really true that your body would be more lovable if you had more toned shoulders? I don't know. So people who start asking that kind of question, those are the ones who end up looking towards body image, trying to heal, you know, on a deeper level, recognizing that it's so hard, but they want to do it anyway. You know, they want to be able to feel loving of their bodies and themselves no matter what they look like.
I love talking to you, Jessi, and I could go on talking for hours. Unfortunately, the time is running out. So is there anything that you'd like to say before we wrap up? I'm
good. I'm super passionate about this stuff. I will say that, you know, the whole summit's about stress, and it is heartbreaking to me how much stress goes into something that isn't real. I mean, it's real, it's totally real, but doesn't need to be like that when it comes to women's bodies, because we are told, it's so normalized that like hating your body is just how it goes. Like, we're really taught that you should spend your entire life dieting and feeling dissatisfied, and that's just that. And it's not true. You don't have to feel that way. You really, really can feel relaxed in your body. You can let go of imagining what everybody else is thinking about you all the time. That these sources of stress and anxiety that we think are just normal, like, don't have to be there. So that's my message to the world.
I love that you're challenging these assumptions that sometimes we don't even realize we're carrying with us. I think that's it's so important. And especially now more than ever, where you've got all these images of women on covers of magazines and hardly any of men. You know, the female body really is under immense pressure and scrutiny. I think your message is so important, you know, now more than ever.
Yeah, thank you.
And I know that you've also got a free gift that you'd like to share with our audience. Would you like to talk a bit about that?
Sure. So it's an ebook that I wrote called Body Image Alchemy: Why You're Still Failing to Love Yourself and 6 Ways to Level Up. And I wrote it exactly because of what you said, that I wanted to challenge a lot of the assumptions that people were making. I wanted to offer people a way of beginning the process. So if you have like a little bit of a flutter of resonance with what I'm saying, you know, and you don't know where to go next, you're like, ooh, yeah, that seems true-ish. There aren't a lot of resources out there. So I wrote this book to offer a resource to begin the next step, which is just taking a look at what is really going on, what body image is really about in the first place, why it's so frustrating and why it's like everywhere. And then also what you can do about that, how you can take it and turn it inside, you know, turn it inward and be able to look at making changes for yourself at a level that actually matters, because changing your body is not going to change your body image. Healing your relationship to your body will. So the book is a bridge, a beginning step for people who are trying to get into this.
I love that. And for the viewers out there who are watching at home, you can click on the link below and that will take you straight to Jessi's website so that you can access this free book and start your journey of healing and developing your relationship, you know, to yourself and with your body and your body image. So thank you, Jessi, for all of that you've shared with the people who are watching us at home. And thank you to all of you who are watching this, and good on you for tuning in to learn more about how you can create a better quality of life for yourself, which is what we're talking about here and what we're doing. So remember to keep an eye out for more Stress Less Summit emails that are coming your way to enjoy even more great advice just like this. Take care.